stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Selcha?
Here.
Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Ramos? Mr. Brain?
Here, and let the record show that Mr. Ramos is excused. Item 2, for discussion only. A, presentation of current budget and projected future budget adjustments for fiscal year 2025-26. Before we get into the administration's presentation, Board, I just want to go over a couple of things with you. This is kind of a unique year for this board for addressing the budget. And the reason is we have some unusual circumstances. The most prevailing one and the most important one is a letter that I received in January from the Auditor General, and I believe shared it with board members. But it's important, and in part, I want to read what it has to say because it's going to have a huge bearing on some of the decisions we make. And it starts out by saying, we have issued our January 2025 school year district financial risk analysis report. You can review your district's January 2025 results on our interactive report site. Your district result page includes important data such as recent changes in weighted student counts and operating capital budget limit reserves that we encourage you to use when evaluating your district's budget in finance-related decisions. Although your district is not identified as one of the state's highest risk districts, like the ones that are in trouble, one closed, and there's 3 more, Santa Cruz Valley, I don't get to these a little bit, Tonto Basin, and Antelope Springs. But anyway, it says, although you're not high risk, you are you're not an exceptionally high risk, you are a high risk district. This is important. It says, collectively, the measures relate to a district's overall financial risk of not being able to operate, overspending, and or accumulated cash deficits may be eligible for receivership in accordance with ARS 15-103. Our analysis focuses on identifying the districts that currently spend more than their budget limits or available cash resources, likely miss the signs of their increasing financial risk in years their revenues or spending reserves substantially decreased. I want you to keep that in mind, and I want to tell you that I spoke to the Auditor General's office this morning, and the concern regarding this letter is that in the past 5 years, this district has transferred for good cause. It's been every bit of the $4,050,000, I believe that's the figure I just gave you, has been for good cause. It's been for salary or teacher-related benefits or staff-related benefits. However, we have done that, and we've done it consistently, and the problem is that if we do it again, we've already been identified as one of 47 school districts out of 206 in the state of Arizona that are at high risk. That's not a good moniker to have on this district. So I guess the discussion regarding this with members of the board is that in our oversight and stewardship, we have to be extremely sensitive and aware to anything that's recommended by them, that we operate within the confines of the district. Because in the discussion this morning with the Auditor General, he pointed out to me that there were things that were mentioned informally, but they're very significant, that if we drift into these other areas, the district could easily go into high risk, one of the higher risk levels. And those are, and I discussed them this morning with the superintendent and the CFO. One is if we get a change in weighted student count, budget limit reserve, that's one that he pointed out to me specifically, and I told you about that this morning. Our financial position, and the small school budget limit adjustment. And of course, the one that we got cited for was capital monies redirected to operations. And what they're thinking is that if a school district, in building a budget, has an M&O based on your revenues and all of your resources, and you make your budget and you have a plan for spending, and that's what that is, that if you stay within the confines of that based on what your means are, you're fine. But what they look at as the Auditor General's office is that if you consistently have to transfer money from capital, which is not intended for those kinds of expenditures, then they believe, and that's why they cited us, that we're not being fiscally responsible by not staying within the confines of the revenues that generate in order to operate the maintenance and operation part of the budget. So I want to point that out to you so that when the district goes through, the administration addresses the board regarding some of the things that are going to happen this year regarding the budget, it's important for us as board members to keep in mind that they recommend, and they recommend on their best information. We're the ones that approve it, obviously. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but we need to be extremely cognizant of the fact that we've been alerted that, again, if we were to transfer capital for any expenditure, we've already got the red flag, and that would be the 6th time in a row. And then if we were to drift into those other categories that I pointed out to Mr. Soto and Mrs. Samaniego this morning, we could be in trouble. And then, of course, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna let that happen, but it's prevalent all over the state now. School districts are having problems, and of course, everybody knows the main reason is student count. And so I'm gonna save the rest of that for discussion among the board members, but at this time, I'm gonna let Mrs. Samaniego and staff present their proposed budget. No decision tonight, strictly discussion, and let them give us what they feel is realistic regarding the budget and some of the things that they've done regarding living within the parameters of some of the things I just said, all right? So with that, Ms. Samaniego, go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, members of the community, and staff. We're here tonight, as discussed in a former meeting when I presented our budget cuts, or budget freeze at the time of, I believe that was in January. And so I informed the board that during this time, we had looked at the budget and we were gonna try to reserve some of our M&O budget by doing less spending, and that meant freezing up some of the positions that people vacated, little control on expenditures, travel, anything that was coming out of the M&O budget. Over every board meeting, in the last few years, we have shared with you our enrollment. And we've always said, this is how many kids we've lost, this is how many kids we've gained. This is how much money it means in total loss. That information has been clear. Mr. Soto at times has said, we are good, our budget is good. And he said, our budget is good for this year. And he has said in several board meetings, my concern is for the following year. And so this is where we are at. We didn't rift anybody this year. We really try to reserve and conserve all of the positions we've had in the district. So what we're presenting tonight is just information on what we've done as of the time that I put the budget freeze. The board asked for a work study session before we make any recommendations or any decisions. You asked me to come back with some idea of what impact could take place for next year based on what we know now. And that's what we're here tonight. So I'm gonna start with, we're gonna have a PowerPoint and everybody's gonna be able to see it, and you have it on your screens. So since we implemented the budget freeze, Mrs. Cox and Mr. Soto have had position control meetings with every school leader admin team. And they've reviewed the many factors that take place in their school, from enrollment to positions, vacancies, what's needed, what is not. That has happened at every site, and much of what is coming tonight is based off of that. Much of the savings to next year's budget is not because we're letting go of people, but we are not filling vacancies or filling positions that are no longer needed mainly in terms of teaching. It is not, I wouldn't be responsible coming to you and saying, I need 10 math high school teachers, when clearly their enrollment for the math department, some classes may have 12 kids, some classes may have 5. That's just an example. And so we've looked at every single school, every single classroom, every single student. And that is mainly what is going to be the cost savings to the district. So some of the factors and I will share some of what Mr. Bahrain stated as far as the Auditor General. Some of the factors that are impacting our budget, as you know, is mainly the loss in student count. And that is nothing different from what you've heard from across the state. I gave you here the last 5 years. Just starting in the 2019 school year, we ended the year with 4,067 students. That year, we had a gain of 6 students. In 2021, we ended with 3,796 students. That year was the pandemic year. We lost 271 students. In the 21-22 school year, we ended with 3,782. That was a loss of 14 students for that year. In the 23 school year, we ended with 3,757, lost an additional 25 students. In the 23-24 school year, we ended with 3,652 students. We had a loss of 105 students in that year. In this current year, we are at 3,579. So far, it's a loss of 73 students just in this year as of probably at the end of February. So when you take a look at year-to-year loss, we have lost over 488 students since the start of the 1920 school year. What that means in terms of money, it's approximately $2.5 million in just enrollment, okay? Next factor is our capital transfer and carryover. So this is what Mr. Bahrain referred to in terms of in the last 5 years, the district has had to transfer money from the capital over to the M&O to either sustain, the salary increases, salaries and benefits, for teachers or for staff. And so there's another section on carryover, and I'm going to let Mr. Soto explain more in detail what all this means.
Good afternoon, board and staff and community. A little bit of information on the carryover. The carryover is basically what the unspent monies from the M&O side of things. What that means is when we encumber salaries and benefits and we encumber all of the purchase orders we have for the year, at the time of everything is allocated and encumbered, but when we're closing the books at the end of the year, we free up some monies from POs, or we free up money from positions that were vacant or salaries that weren't paid or benefits. So it's just the same thing as we did with the enrollment. Those are the amounts that we had as carryovers in the past few years. Starting with the school year of 21, we had a 1.2 million carryover, 22 1.7, 23 2.1, 24 2.2, and 25 1.7. The projections for this year, it's only 300,000. And again, it's just an approximate number because we haven't closed the year, obviously, but that's my best estimation on what the carryover will be for the end of this year.
And if you see on capital transfers, you see the amounts there in the transfers from capital. For 21, it was 500,000, 22, 500,000, 23, 750. and fiscal year '24 was 800. And then the fiscal year '25, which allowed us to do the 3% salary increase raise, was the 1.5 million transfer. And so, and the reason we put fiscal year '26, it's not meaning that we're gonna do that, because that's a board decision. But I want you to keep that number in mind as we go through our presentation, and having all the proposed cuts and not filling vacancies and discussing everything I'm gonna share with you, even after all of that, in order to sustain what we have in the raises and continue operating, Mr. Soto believes that we would have to still consider a $750,000 transfer. So I want you to keep that number in the back of your minds as we move forward.
You know, can I
Yes.
get a quick question? When you mentioned that it was because of the increases and things like that, I thought that came from ESSER funds.
The 1.5, the 3% increase, Mr. Lindeman, that was when the board approved the transfer of 1.5 to do the increase of the
Salary
3%.
Okay, so what we were giving in the one-time benefits, that was the ESSER
All
funds.
that was ESSER.
Correct.
And does that go into the M&O budget
No,
then?
no, sir, that's
no,
separate.
Those were
Where does that
separated.
go?
It's the separate ESSER funding that came from the COVID years, so that was additional to
So
help the
that
school
has no
district.
bearing on these
No.
transfers?
No. And our employees got, I think I shared, I don't know, $25,000 or so,
Depending on the-
from the ESSER
Mhm.
as a one-time in different stipends.
So you're mentioning that the increase in salaries came from the transfer?
Correct. The 1.5, if you remember, we had that discussion and said in order for us to provide increases for this current school year, we would have to transfer the 1.5. In addition to what we had done before in the past, it was gonna be the 1.5 to cover the 3%, transferring from the capital to the M&O side.
Well, I
Not
didn't
touching
think that
ESSER.
was gonna cause such a conundrum here, just because we were doing that.
And it's not just that specific factor, but I mean, it's part of that.
And so as Mr. Bahrain said too, while it's an allowable thing to do, under the constraints of our school budgets, districts do transfer from capital to the M&O budget. I think what the 1.5 million did, if you see, it's been 500, 550, 700, so it's kept increasing. So suddenly you see a 1.5, that was we're
The
alerting
trigger.
you to keep an eye on that, as the Auditor General said. So we want to avoid having to transfer any monies. And that's what I want you to keep in the back of your minds as I go through the presentation.
All right, thank you.
That's why I gave you that background information regarding the capital specifically about transferring any more money out of there. All right, so anyway, we'll get on with the conversation and then we can answer questions as they come along.
The next slide has information on our federal funding, and of course, this is another factor because enrollment is affected and salaries are enrollment affects federal funding. And so on the left column, you have information on our current year grants. Some of the grants are missing from this because it doesn't pertain to really what I want you to consider. But we had some, delay in grant openings, so the new date for grants is gonna be April 1st. Some of the grants in Title I, you have $2,734,789. Title IV, the well-rounded and safety, is $246,691 and some cents. The IDA, which is our for special ed, $913 and $436. Allocations from AD may be reduced pending, federal funding formulas. There's been reduction in initial allocations based on student enrollment. So our grants are also impacted by student enrollment. In those grants alone, there is a current of $3,894,917 and some cents. Mrs. Herrera, you want to speak on what's pending?
Okay, as of today, what we know, when Congress passed the budget, that there was money allocated for 4 grants. One was Title I, Title IV-A, IDEA, and a grant called REAP, which we do not have. grants that were not funded by Congress was the CTE state, the CTE federal, our Title II, Title III, Title IV-B, which is 21st century, our migrant, our rural and low income, and our structured English immersion grant. That currently those grants are funded at 1.4 million. The grant that is not included in this PowerPoint is our Stronger Connections grant, which pays for our 2 officers at the 2 middle schools. Total, we have $5.8 million in grants. We do not know how much we are going to receive this year. ADE has told us that some of the grants will be funded. At this point, the sum means Title I, Title IV-A, and IDEA only. Monies that have been sent to the state are at the discretion of the state to disperse as they see fit. So that's the state of the grants right now, or for next year. I have no idea until April 1st how much and which grants will be funded. And just as a side note, just to pay for salaries out of Title I must have at least $2.3 million just for salaries alone.
Thank you, Mrs. Zarada.
Any questions?
Yes. Approximately how many salaries are paid from Title I?
I don't have that number at the top of my head, but there are teachers, parent liaisons, it pays for summer school, pays for tutoring, pays for my entire department. There are a lot of teacher salaries in there. A lot of teacher salaries. The majority of that grant, the salaries, is 1.1 million just for teachers.
When you're saying 2.3 million for salaries, does that include or
Includes benefits.
benefits and retirement that funds?
We do, the retirement, yeah, it's all included under benefits.
Okay, so it's all
Yeah, it's
included in that
salaries plus
2.3
benefits, so
million.
1.1, and I did run those numbers earlier, it's 1.1 million just for teacher salaries. And then the rest of the salaries include after-school tutoring, which are teacher salaries. It also includes summer school, which are teacher salaries. And then it includes 4 people within my department. And then there are just a couple of coaches in that Title I grant. The other coaches are in Title III, Title II, and rural and low income, and one is in migrant. So not everyone in my department comes out of Title I.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Let me, how many of those positions that you have that are fully, not fully, that's what I'm gonna ask you. You have some of those positions and grants that are shared with a portion or a percentage with the district,
Correct.
right? Do you know how much that is?
I only have one I take that back.
That's
Two
not a fair
people,
question because I don't
yeah.
know how you
No,
get
I
to
do
figure
know.
that, but-
There are 2 people that are shared with M&O in the grant, and that is my McKinney-Vento migrant liaison is shared, and then my district tester is also shared with M&O. Those are the only 2 that are shared with M&O. Everybody else comes out fully funded out of that grant.
And those are classified.
Parent liaison.
Then those are
Staff.
classified. Those are not certified staff. Yeah, the
Members
rest
of the
are all
board, any more
teachers.
questions regarding the grants? Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So
Thanks, Debbie.
So those are the 3 main areas that I want you to consider and that we've considered in looking at what we're proposing to do for next year. The next few slides, I'm gonna go through Douglas High School, the middle schools, the elementaries, in terms of what we're proposing and what positions we're not going to vacate, fill next year, okay? Douglas High School alone, in collaboration with our administration, we are reducing 1 ELA teaching position, 1 PE, 1 science, 1 math, 2 CTE, 1 ESSIA. We are not filling the health aid DHS floater who helps and assists when in nursing needs or health aid needs. The Douglas High School curriculum coordinator, we're reducing her workdays, additional workdays on top of her contract from 20 days to 10 days. And that is an approximate saving of $445,000.806 to the MNO budget. And those positions are all because of their low enrollment and recommendation from the administration that they can still continue to providing instructional services to our students with the number of teaching staff that they will keep at Douglas High School in any of those areas. So that's Douglas High School.
Members of the board, any questions regarding Douglas High School and the recommendations on those positions?
With these recommendations that they're making and the reductions it does, these are, that 750,000 that they said we're gonna have to do or wanna do the carryover for, is that after these
Yes.
take effect?
Yes, and that's why I
So
said
after
keep,
these reductions, they're still gonna want another 750,000?
yes, and that's why I said keep that number in the back of your minds, okay? Moving along to both middle schools. We are at both middle schools combining reading and writing. For those of us that have been ELA teachers, ELA used to be taught as just ELA, language arts. And it's taught that way at the high school as English, and at the elementary, it's taught the same way. So at the middle schools, they were teaching reading and writing, requiring 6 teachers at each site. So we are now, based on the numbers and also school improvement information and student growth, we are going back down to combining those two to be an ELA teacher, a language arts teacher. So that affects 6 teachers, so 3 of those 6 will stay to teach ELA at each of the sites. That means 3 teachers at each one of those sites. We have to look at where we can position them within the district or within that same school in a vacancy that we will fill. So those are positions that we're looking at. We are not replacing a health teacher at Paul Huber Middle School, which was an elective. The band teacher at the middle school, we've seen a decrease in student and wanting to take band. And so our band interest is low overall at the whole district. So it only makes sense, we have a Douglas High School band teacher, and because of the low enrollment, we're going to be proposing that band teacher teach at both middle schools and then teach at the high school, and our band teacher at the middle school will move into another position that I will share with you in a little bit. 2 gen ed IAs, 1 per site, that have been vacant. They've been vacant, they haven't been filled, so we're not gonna fill it. 1 ESS IA at Paul Huber Middle School that had been vacant, not going to fill it. And so I just added a little bit of information for the teachers who won't have a position in ELA. We are looking at the vacancies we have and try to place them there. Factors that we will consider is what are they certified in? You know, are they certified in any other area? Are they certified in K-8? And we're gonna look at positions so that we can make decisions as where to place them. An approximate savings there is $621,718.69 to the MNO budget. Do you have any questions for my middle school admin or myself? At the elementary sites, we are, you won't see that many there, but we have 1 ESS teacher at Ferris. Ferris had about 9 ESS students this year. We cannot sustain or continue to provide a full-time ESS teacher for 9 students at one site. 2 PE teachers, elementary schools, we had, you know, the ability to provide them a PE teacher. We had 2. The 2 teachers we have recently resigned, and so those 2 positions are going away, but we have a plan as to how to provide the elementary some physical education and support for teacher planning, PLC, and all of that information. In addition to Stevenson, behavior specialist / counselor is going to be resigning at the April board meeting, she's gonna be leaving. And so that position is going away, and I want you to look at why. That position was an ESSER-funded position. So while ESSER provided additional monies for us to be able to do many great things, that was one of the positions I brought to the board that's one out of the 4 positions that I asked you to consider because of the needs and the services that they provide to kids. Can we put it in our M&O budget? The board approved it. So that was a recent add-on once ESSER went away. The counselor is leaving, so the recommendation is not to fill that position for now. Additional considerations coming forward, not part of this savings, is we have 2 schools, Stevenson and Joe Carlson, who have lower class sizes in the areas of, I wanna say 1st, 3rd. So they may have 3 first grade teachers, 3 second grade, 3 third grade teachers. And so Mrs. Cox is working with the admin, and they are looking at which grade levels they may collapse. So for example, instead of needing 3 second grade, they may suggest 2. Maybe one of those teachers will go down to teach a 4th or a 5th grade where the numbers are higher. And so, for example, like I said, instead of 3 third grade, we may only need 2. We didn't do those savings just yet because we're still enrolling kids for next year. They're doing their annual registrations and all of that. And instead of pulling a position just yet and affecting Stevenson or Joe Carlson, we're gonna wait till approximately May to see if the administrator on site, along with their leadership team, says we can collapse one, and we'll make a recommendation and then not hire for that position. So the approximate savings right now for the elementaries is $211,288.82 to the M&O budget, okay? As far as one of our our departments who supports schools is our maintenance department. They have had 2 grounds worker positions. They've been vacant for quite some time. So they've done the work, so that tells me right now we don't need them if they've been vacant for too long. That's an approximate savings of $87,976.63 to the M&O budget. Okay. Our IT department has been hit over the last few years. The IT department had 4 IT help desk, that were funded out of ESSER. We only kept 2. We added them to the M&O budget, if you remember. So the 2 IT help desk were 2 additional positions we brought from ESSER over to the M&O. And the reason we did that is our district became a high demand as far as technology after COVID. And so the help that was needed for students, the help that was needed there for teachers was the reason I brought forth the IT help desk and I asked, can we keep them and add them to the M&O budget? So there's 2 options there that that I'm considering for our IT department. And in speaking with Mr. Durazo, he would prefer option 2. He would prefer option 1 versus option 2 because that gives them more staff to work with and still having to deal and address all of our technology needs in the district. So option 1, there's currently the vacancy that we didn't hire for when the person left, and we were gonna hire for that starting in July. So that was the AV tech position. If we were to eliminate that position, that's a savings of $62,258.26. Option number 2 would be to eliminate the 2 IT help desks simply because they were add-ons. They were recently added to the M&O budget. They were ESSER funded. They were nice to haves, and we needed them. And so if we eliminate the 2 IT help desks, which were a transfer from the ESSER, that would be a savings of $92,883 to the M&O budget. So those are 2 that we are looking at for IT. I'm not sure if you have any questions on this one.
Members of the board? Go
Or
ahead.
thoughts.
Keep going.
Okay.
I'm making notes.
Okay. All right. Preschool. Preschool is another area that we We definitely need preschool, and I'm an advocate of preschool because preschool is a feeder program to our kinder program. However, M&O cannot support and pay anything for preschool unless, like a ESSIA can be paid out of the M&O budget. But the M&O budget cannot pay for the teacher. So the way we've been operating in order to sustain our preschool programs is Title I helps with the teacher salary, while the M&O takes care of the ESSIAs. Currently in the district, we have 3 preschool programs: Clausen, Ferris, and Joe Carlson. Stevenson, Joe Carlson, and Clausen. So the proposal, in speaking with Mrs. Mrs. Walker, who oversees preschool, and Mrs. Moen, we are recommending closing Clausen Preschool and going down from 3 to 2. We would shift the teacher at Clausen to another current vacancy at that site if she chooses, or look at other vacancies. We would non-renew one general ed IA, because if the program is going away, then the general ed IA, which Mr. Soto can't even pay for out of the M&O budget, will go away. We would shift the ESSIAs in the preschool program to assist at the other 2 preschools or vacant positions, or anywhere else that the ESSIA support is needed. Another reason why we're saying why Clausen is our tuition. So our preschool parents that want to send their kids to preschool have to pay a tuition, and it's $60 a month. It's very, very cheap. It used to be higher, but because our parents were struggling to pay, years ago, we reduced it to $60. Mrs. Walker says even with the $60 a month tuition, they really struggle with Clausen families to pay the tuition. So there's always a struggle getting them to pay. Typically in a preschool program, if you're not paying tuition, you get dropped. We really haven't been doing that. We have been working with our families to keep the preschools open. So based on Mrs. Walker's recommendation and Mrs. Moen's, this is what the one preschool program we would consider closing, so that we could still operate in 2 and maybe increase the numbers of our preschool kids attending at the other 2 sites. The cost savings to this would be $85,350.32, and the savings would be to Title I and the pre-K tuition fund.
What's the average enrollment for preschool classes? What's usually the average?
So I have, for Clausen, I have about 7 typical students and 7 ESS kids for the AM session.
But that's 2 different classes,
Yes,
right?
so
we're
that's the
looking at
morning.
7 and 7.
So the PM at Clausen is 10 typical and 5 ESS for a total of 15.
What about the other schools' averages?
So Joe Carlson has, right now, AM is 6 typical and 8 ESS for a total of 14 in the AM. And PM is 11 typical and 3 ESS for a total of 14. At Stevenson, we have 8 typical in the AM and 7 ESS for 15 kids. And PM is 10 typical and 8 ESS for a total of 18. So it's clear that 2 schools can absorb the kids attending at Clausen.
You said that if Clausen closed, there's still 2 other preschools? Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Is
Yes.
the tuition at the other 2 preschools the same $60 a month?
Yes, it's $60.
Does that $60 a month cover the cost of the preschool?
No,
If
it
not,
does.
what is the
It does.
shortfall? How
No, it
much
does.
is?
So Mrs. Walker, wanna come up?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, DUSD administration. So the overall total cost of preschool, just with the salaries, is about $324,810.56. So the ADM generated from the ESS students, we have about 38, I went and looked right now at current count, about 38 ESS students in our preschool program. We're only funded on a different weight, but we only receive funding that's equal to 21.2 students. And again, that's at a reduced rate because we only have 2.5-hour programs. So the tuition generated averages about $20,714 for the school year. That's what we estimate our take-in will be for the current school year. The ADM, we already know that amount. It's $106,379.87. So we operate in the negative about $189,716.40.
Mr. Smith? Is that
That answer
sufficient?
my question?
Okay, good.
And again, that's just salaries. That's not like cost of buildings, supplies, etc.
Do we still offer the Little Bulldog program at the high school?
Yes, the CT program does have that at the high school. And I just want to clarify too that the only students paying tuition are the typicals. We do not currently charge any ESS student.
Mrs. Walker, I'm gonna ask you this. So based on the revenue that comes in versus the shortfall and keeping, because we had extensive discussions about whether we can continue providing preschool at DUSD. And that is a serious consideration we gave, knowing the revenue, knowing the shortfall. And because it's a feeder program into our district, you know, our conversations along with governing board president was closing, you know, entirely the preschool may affect us more because they're gonna go to they're gonna go to a charter school that provides preschool and that will be providing schools, preschool soon, and then may stay at theirs and not, at their schools and not come back. So that is always a thing that we have in the back of our mind. If I get direction from the board and say, you know, Mrs. Samanio, you really gotta cut one more, you know, then that's what we'll do, because we did put that on the table for discussion to go down to one, or eventually get rid of the whole program, which we don't wanna do.
Can you explain to me that Little Bulldogs, you said is CTE funded?
Yes.
Why is that their difference?
Because that's through their CTE program. That is part of their early childhood program where the students, the teacher works with the students create the lesson plans, and they provide the instruction to the preschoolers there.
Can the CTE program absorb the others?
I would not think so, because you've got, and I was at the high school, you've got one teacher not only teaching the high school students, but then also responsible for the preschool students. Now, larger CTE programs, when I was at Douglas High School, from what I understood from Quality First, have multiple teachers in the classroom, one focused on the high schoolers and one focused on the preschoolers. We do not have that here at Douglas High School. Did I answer that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the enrollment, Albert?
14,
Okay,
and we just have an AM session.
okay.
Questions?
Thanks, Katie. Oh, go ahead, you have a question?
You know, I just remember when the preschool started, under Dr. Herrick, and the minimum class size was about 15.
So we operate under not only ADE, but it's mainly the Arizona Department of Health and Safety. And so the rule is with them is that you have to have, with the age range that we service, it's a 1 to 13 ratio. However, we have more adults because we have students that are preschool severe delay and they have a lot of needs or developmental delays. So we have more adults in the room because of the need for one-to-one IA support. But it's a 1 to 13 ratio.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so in looking at our curriculum and federal programs department, this is what we will be doing, or proposing to do, is we have the coaches, as Mrs. Herrera says, in her department, then they get funded out of the different, you know, grants. Some of them were like Title II, Title III, the school site fund, and various factors that come into play for their salaries. So the school improvement specialist works an additional 30 days. We're proposing to reduce those days to 15 days. All the other instructional coaches would work 20 additional days on top of their teacher contract, and so they're gonna take 10 days less. Mrs. Herrera also has two positions that were encumbered and in her department that will not be filled. That would be one school improvement specialist that was left by Jessica Castillo when she went over to the admin side. And most recent, we had the new teacher induction coach, Mrs. Martinez, is going to be moving from Douglas, and that position will not be replaced else. So she's losing two positions there. So approximate savings to just in the coaching staff is $213,901.59 from the various grants. When I said that we would be doing away with the two elementary PE positions, we met with Mrs. Herrera and said, okay, our elementary schools need some support in electives so that there is some planning time for our elementary teachers. So this is what we will be doing. We're gonna be restructuring the way Title IV pays for the staff that it used to pay. So under the Title IV grant, which is called Safe and Healthy and Well-Rounded, there's a percentage that has to be spent on safe and healthy, and there's a percentage that has to be spent on the well-rounded. So currently this year, we have 5 IAs who are paid out of that grant. And what they do, they do art, they can do dance, they do art, dance, computers, anything that falls under the safe and healthy and well-rounded can be done at the elementary. So currently we have 5 support staff. And so the proposed for next year is that the positions that are gonna be now funded out of Title IV will be our 1 elementary music teacher. So remember that I said band at the middle school has been a shared responsibility between doing music and at Huber, because the numbers for band at Huber do not merit a full-time teacher. So her position will be moved as an elementary music teacher funded out of the Title IV. And then we would hire 3 IAs to assist in the physical education part out of this well-rounded. So there will still be 3 people, classified support staff, to do physical education for the elementaries, and then 1 music teacher instead of 2 PE teachers or 1 PE teacher and 1 music teacher to provide services to all 5 elementaries. So that's how the Title IV will be restructured.
On that page.
Any
members of the
questions?
board, any questions? Go ahead.
In continuation for curriculum and federal programs, Mrs. Herrera said that after April 1st, she's gonna get more information on her grant. So there may be some potential further impacts to her department if there is less money coming in. And that would be impacting the Title III grant, which provides a salary for 2 ELD coaches. Title II, to the 1 new teacher induction coach position we have currently, and to the 1 migrant advocate that we have in the district. So we didn't put money there because those are not something that's happening as of now. But in considering future impacts, that's how what we would look at for her department.
Going back to
Uh-huh.
the previous screen,
Mhm.
down at the bottom, when you were talking about the Title IV-A grant, and how many positions are normally at each elementary?
1.
Just 1?
Yes, so there's 5 for 5
Okay.
elementaries.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
All right. So this is where it gets good. This is really what I really want to focus on, and I really want to explain how our employee insurance benefits is going to impact us for next year, but also for years to come, because insurance benefits keep going up. So before I even go into what options we are proposing, you consider before you make a decision on what you choose for DUSD to make as a board contribution to employee benefits. This year, last year we were capped at 9, we had a cap on our insurance from Blue Cross Blue Shield. What does a cap mean? It means that we cannot go above a 9% insurance increase benefit. So this year, our increase is gonna be at 9%. Without that cap, it was going to be 40% increase to what the insurance cost was going to be. So that is a good thing that it's only at 9%. The 9% total, Mr. Soto, how much does DUSD right now pay for employee benefits?
Roughly 3.2 million
Okay, so keep that number
out
in
of
the back.
M&O and all
Out of
titles
M&O and
the
everything,
titles.
3.2 million pays for our benefits for our staff. So here are the options that I want you to consider. Option one would be the increase for next year, right, Mr. Soto? So if we were to keep the same insurance plan that we have, which is the copay
Copay Gold.
gold, and for the governing board to decide, we want our employees to keep that insurance, we want to continue paying towards that 100%, we would recommend, an option you could consider would be to use $350,000 out of the classroom site fund, which is the 301 site fund, to pay the increase of $350,000. What that would do to employees is they would keep the same insurance plan, they wouldn't have to pay more out of their paycheck, and it would affect the 301 classroom site fund. And if you remember, 301 is for those qualifying members. So you have some counselors, you have teachers, some related support service people that get that extra 301 money in December and in May. I will share at the end the impact that it will have, that any of these will have to the 301 site fund, so that you can have a better understanding. Option two would be to use up to anywhere from 0 to up to $600,000 to fund certified staff positions using the 301 classroom site fund, change the insurance plan that the district would pay for to the Classic Silver, which means anybody that has insurance in the district and that selects to have insurance would now have a $500 deductible to their individual plan. So all of these are individual. The approximate savings there would be if the board would say, okay, you can transfer you can use, not transfer, use $600,000 out of the 301 site fund. By going down to a Classic Silver alone, just by removing the copay gold that the district has been paying for, and now saying, we can no longer afford to do that, but we're willing to still give you something for insurance, we're gonna go down and pay the Classic Silver. That is a savings of $250,000 alone, just by going to the Classic Silver. So if you add those two figures, that would be a savings of $850,000 to the M&O budget. Option three, many districts do this. Many districts pay a percentage of the insurance and the employee pays another percentage. We are really one of maybe one district in the state of Arizona, because that's what our consultant says. One district that offers and does everything for our employees in terms of insurance, and that we offer rich plans. Our district has paid for our health benefits for our employees, and other districts don't do that. So in considering a different option would be that the district only pays for 75% of the insurance, and the employee would have to cover 25% of their insurance on the current gold plan that we have, the copay gold. This is an approximate savings of $800. How this would impact the employee would be that the employee is now paying out of their paycheck to cover that 25% cost. That's for, it depends if they have the employee plus children, employee plus family, employee only, employee plus spouse, so it may impact them financially in different factors. Option number 4, which did come into conversation when we met with Mr. Bahrain, and we presented everything that we have. And are we at a point that the that the district can no longer pay for any health insurance benefit to our employees. And if we are at that point, this means that 100% of our employee benefits would be covered by the staff that choose to have insurance. That would be a cost savings of $3,200,000 to the MNO budget because we would no longer be paying for that. However, what does it do? It's gonna impact our staff. And it's gonna impact the staff drastically. We are not proposing an increase in salary this year, so that's already a factor. Price of everything is increasing, that's a factor. And I would not make that recommendation as an option, because that is going to severely impact the people that have insurance. And not every person has insurance in the district, and we know that. That is an option. Some people don't take it because they're on their spouse's insurance plan, or they may be on Access and don't need insurance. So we have some employees that don't have insurance, okay? Not having that coverage, I feel that we would lose staff. They can clearly go work somewhere else that doesn't provide the insurance, but makes more money. Or we would have many employees choosing between eating and paying for insurance. And so they may be without insurance.
Wait,
In-
are you,
Okay.
let me interrupt you for a
Okay.
minute, because I think it's important that the board know.
Mhm.
When she talks about the 301 monies,
Mhm.
that was an idea to do that. Because had that not been a possibility, but then we have to reconcile that with how that's gonna affect, if we take that much money out of the 301, how it's gonna affect the rest of the payment that we've always given to the teachers. But the important thing here to note is the reason she came up with 301, because originally, and that's why I prefaced everything that she said with what I said about the Auditor General, was that the plan was to take it out of the capital.
Have to take it out of the capital.
So that would have been another 1.2 million coming out of capital, added to that 4 million, whatever it was, in perpetuity, it would have been the 6th year, and then we've got to be sensitive to that. That would be the red flag again to the Auditor General. And then, as I mentioned, and this is important, as I mentioned this morning, that I talked to the Auditor General, and that the trend the district's going in now in finances is that we're on the brink of going into a couple of those areas, those other areas that I mentioned, that would really cause us a problem. And a few years ago, this district was in dire straits because they were registering warrants. They had to get a line of credit from the county. I think that was on your watch, that they lost all that money. But that they got, no, I'm just kidding, of course. I know you came in, and that was what you were confronted with.
That's what he came into.
But it was a horrible situation, and that's what I wanna ensure and make sure that the board understands. We don't ever wanna get in that predicament again, especially with being on the brink of getting into a couple more of these categories that are gonna put us even at higher risk. I personally don't like the high risk at all anyway, being associated with 46 other school districts in the state that don't manage their finances very well. So, anyway, I wanted to say that. That's why she's talking about 301 monies, and then the question is, what would that do to, if you use that much money, what would that do to the benefits that we've originally given forever?
Yes.
to the-
And we have that information.
Okay, address that.
Yes, so before Mr. Soto just gives you an example of how that would affect the 301. So 301 Classroom Site Fund can, has, here at DUSD, one of the very few districts that does that, goes 100% out to our qualifying members, counselors, teachers, those that qualify for 301. So, but Classroom Site Fund can also be used for teacher salaries. It can be used to pay for health insurance. It can be used for support-related services to students. So there's other areas that it can fund. We've never done that here. And that's where my proposal is coming in. Considering the factor that even if, after everything that I've shared with you, even after all the cuts, we'd still be looking at having to transfer $750,000, which I don't want to do. So what are my options here? And one of the options is, let's look at our 301 site fund, which we've never touched. How would that impact our teachers? Mr. Soto will share that. I will just say right now, because we met with DEA and Mrs. Fredrickson, who oversees, along with Ms. Barayardos, the committee. And so currently this year, there are 218 qualifying staff members that get 301, okay? For this year, average, they're looking at getting about $15,000 of 301 monies. They got a portion of it in December. They're gonna get 2 additional checks, in May. That is on top of their salary. For next year, Mr. Soto foresees them getting, and how much money in 301s for this year?
Roughly 3.2 million,
So-
a little less than 3.2 million to be distributed between the 218 qualifying employees. By reducing the 600,000 leaves us 2.6 roughly. Also keep in mind that we're not filling a lot of those certified vacancies, so that will reduce the number of teachers that we're gonna distribute that money. So I'm projecting, and again, these are just numbers, projections is probably 13 to 13,500 that they will still receive if the monies are the same as what we had last year. So the impact will be probably between $1,500 and $2,000 per qualifying employee from
So
301
less.
monies.
So instead of them getting about
The
15,000, which they got last year and are looking about this year, and projecting that, give or take, just assuming, let's say 200 staff are qualifying for the 301 versus the 218, and we just selected 200 because of the vacancies that we're filling that are teacher vacancies. That would leave us $2.6 million for next year to distribute between the 301 qualifying staff. That means they'd still be looking at about $13,000. I think that is, it helps our 301 teachers. It helps the district in providing still insurance, because it may be the last year that we're gonna be able to do this, to tell you the truth. If the increase next year is of 30% or 40%, I'm gonna come back, if I'm here, back to the drawing board and say, how can we continue and how can we provide insurance at a 40% increase to the budget? And so, that's how it would impact our 301 staff.
So, to be clear and to contrast that, you would take the 301 monies and you would pay for
Certified.
7 or 8 teachers out of that,
Whatever.
however many you
Whatever the amount,
determine.
correct.
That frees up that money in the budget, and so you would take that money, whatever the board decides, to pay whichever one of those options for the insurance, right?
Correct.
But this has thoroughly been discussed with staff, 301 committee,
We met with them, we met with just the chairs this morning. They haven't gone to discuss this. Yeah, that was just this morning. So they haven't gone back to 301 staff to share this information.
And, and just to go back and recapture, all of the things that you discussed on the previous pages regarding the freeze, the cuts, it's been thoroughly discussed with all of the schools, right? You've had meetings
Yes.
with all of the administrators, and they may not totally agree, but do they understand that it's something that needs to be done? So that's why you're making these recommendations, right? Okay, I just want to be clear on that. All right, go ahead. You want to
Yes.
continue?
So, up to, like I informed DA and our rep that was there from 301, they can definitely, they can go back to their teachers, the people that are, that get the 301 monies. It's not gonna be my decision, and it's not gonna be the committee's decision. It's gonna be left up to the board to make that decision, because ultimately you're voting on it, and you're voting on what option, either one I'm presenting. And my recommendation will be, our recommendation is option 2.
If we go to option 2, with the insurance change, do we still have to transfer from capital? We would use the 301 portion.
Correct.
Same as option 3?
Yes, so option 3, you wouldn't need to transfer 750,000?
No, not really, because I'm still covering that 750,000
301.
with the savings there.
Not transfer.
No, that's what I'm saying. I won't have to do it.
No. So
And,
if we use 301 for these, and we can still choose an option for the insurance and lessen the burden
Mhm.
for our
Yes.
budget. Well, I'd like to see that, a survey then from the staff and see which one they would prefer. You know, if it was option 2 or option 3,
I can
just to get
send
an
out a
idea of
survey.
what they would
Uh-huh.
want.
And option 3, while it's still a $800,000 savings, it affects the employee who's gonna have to pay 25% now from their
The premium.
paycheck for the insurance.
And then the
Plus the
employees that already pay for family coverage,
Correct.
right? That would just be the
That would
25% more. But you wouldn't have those figures.
No, because this is just for employee only.
Yeah.
That's what the board contribution is just for the employee alone coverage. If the
Okay.
employee decides to have a different plan or add children or spouse or family, then that's in addition to.
Do you know what the cost is to add on the family anyway?
Yes, sir.
Right now?
Again, there's 3 different plans. The yearly cost for family, if we stay with the copay goal, is 21,741. That's for the whole year.
Well, break that down for a paycheck, please.
It's right there.
Um,
Do you have the breakdown?
About 1,500 paycheck.
for the family, we have for only
Oh,
employee
so
only.
we have,
We have employee only.
26,000 if you have 21 days.
so if,
800 and something.
let's go to the
If it's
scenarios.
26 pays or 21 pays.
K-math people, I start
26.
crunching.
So 21,000 would be $175 a month.
Right.
175. See, that's what
$175 a month is what that would be.
And then two paychecks.
So my question, that would be the employee, or that would be the part, the premium for the insurance. If it's taken option 3 or option 4 on there where the employee would pay a percentage, is that taken out pre-tax?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so that would reduce income too.
Mhm.
Save them on, a little bit on taxes. then.
Yeah.
And that would also mean a deductible. They,
Put your,
I'm sorry, we would have to meet that $500 deductible with the silver plan on top of that.
Is that with, if you did the silver plan, the silver plan is the one that's
Has
21,000 a year?
Has it-
No, that's the copay
gold.
gold. That's the
That's-
current one we're paying.
That's the gold. at
Correct, but
100
there's
So
no
it would be
deductible.
175 a month. Isn't that what I said? Yeah, 175 a month for the gold plan, which I'm guessing has no copay?
No copay,
There's copay, there's no deductible.
no deductible.
Okay,
There's copay,
copay,
no
but no
deductible.
deductible.
Correct.
Okay. So that would be, and they get paid twice a month approximately?
Right.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I still want to do as much as we can for the employees and still make it a reasonable coverage. You know,
Right.
if they choose to have the district insurance and the family plan. So that could still be reasonable. Now, all of that is also pre-tax,
Correct.
isn't it? Yeah, so that's
Insurance is
always
pre-tax,
pre-tax,
yes.
yeah.
and that's why truly, after considering, my discussions with the people I met with this morning, with our admin team, with our leadership team, option number 2 still keeps a healthy amount for our 301. Allows our staff and our district to pay a portion towards the insurance cost for the Classic Silver plan. And our employees will not have to pay per paycheck. Option number 3, the 301 money continues to be given 100% to our staff, to our qualifying people. Okay, so their option 3, we won't affect 301. but it's a 75% investment on the district, 25 on the employee, and that gets more expensive if the employee has employee plus children, employee plus, so they will see less money. So we have some scenarios that we just broke down, just to have an idea. Option 2 is the one where we would take up to 600,000, pay for some salaries, go down to the classic silver plan. So if we were to be looking at, we just took a base teacher salary who makes, 35,900 is somebody that is at a bachelor's degree. On option 2, they wouldn't pay anything for the classic silver. If they choose to buy up for the classic gold, then they would be paying $45 per month for themselves only. All of these options are just employee only. If they want to go up to the copay gold, then they would be paying additionally about $110 per month, which is about 50-some dollars per pay period. For a classified IA, this is bottom base pay, who makes about $19,845, it's the same numbers, 0, 45, 110. Option number 3, which is the 75% that the district would pay, 25% that the employee would pay. For a teacher's base salary, $35,900. For the classic silver, they are now paying $155 per month divided by 2 pay periods. So 50, 60, some, 70 some dollars. For a classic gold, they would be paying $166, and that's again for themselves only. And a copay gold, $182.63 per month. For an IA who, again, makes under $20,000 and makes less money per pay period, you're looking at 150, same figures, 155, 166, and 182 per month. Option number 4, which is where the district makes no contribution towards health insurance. A teacher with the base salary of $35,900 for a classic silver with a $500 deductible plan would now have to pay $620 per month for herself or himself. That does not include spouse, employees, children, family. For a classic gold plan, they would be paying $665 per month. For a copay gold, they would be paying $730 per month. Give or take, I will give you a scenario. A teacher with that base salary may be bringing, after all their deductions, under $1,000. That's her take-home pay right now. So with this, they'd be looking at, $350 less on per pay period. An IA with, again, same salary, could not afford their insurance with that salary. So those are the 3 scenarios for 3 of the 4 options.
Option 2, going back there, I wish that I would have this printed out so that I can look at the page and keep going backwards.
I have it for you.
Option 2, what is the board contribution? Was that the 75%?
In option 2, no,
What was the option 2?
it's 100%.
Oh, that was the 100%. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Any other board members, while he's looking at that, have any questions or comments? Because we're gonna have, definitely have a special meeting next week to give board members and everybody else an opportunity to let this sink in and see what the best option would be, not only for the employee, but for the district as well. So there's a lot to digest there with all of these plans on both sides, with the district and the employee.
Can you go on to the next slide, please? Okay. Moving forward, I am also going to be making some changes and reducing some administrative positions. Ferris Elementary has 127 students full-time principal, 8 full-time teachers. I will be removing the full-time principal position at Ferris. What the administrative oversight will consist of is 1 elementary principal will oversee 2 schools. I am proposing, and I've spoken to Mr. Bahrain, and hopefully this is something that can be supported, creating an assistant elementary principal position to assist with the 2 schools. And Mr. Morales will be the principal to oversee Joe Carlson and Ferris Elementary. And there was a lot of talk, and I mean, I extensively met and discussed with my team. Currently, right now, I have Sarah Marley, who is lower the classroom student enrollment than Joe Carlson. But Sarah Marley right now is a D school. Sarah Marley will have a new principal, and I do not want to put a new principal to oversee Sarah Marley and Ferris. So the reasons and the factors of my decision is that Joe Carlson has more students enrolled than any of the 2 middle schools with over 65 staff members to oversee. Their enrollment at Joe Carlson is 410 students, including preschool, the ESS functional students. So all of our elementary ESS functional kids, high needs kids, go to Joe Carlson, and then the general education population. Total students to oversee with this restructure would be 537 students. Each middle school has no more than 387 students with 2 administrators for each middle school. Therefore, my proposal is Mr. Morales will need some assistance. I know that this has been done before many, many years ago. 1 principal would oversee 2 sites, but board, the principalship is not what it used to be, 30 years ago. There's a lot of demands and expectations, and I think this is, it's not that huge of a cost savings. However, the enrollment at Ferris is also in the back of our minds. And I want to avoid at all cost having to really make a serious consideration of closing Ferris Elementary in the future. And so it's an important community school for Porterville. We keep it open. We allow 2 people to run those 2 schools, but I am going to have to move Mrs. Leon elsewhere. And that is my proposal, and that cost savings there. And we just did it based on what I foresee that position ending earning, $10,945 to the M&O budget. Mr. Morales has been informed. He's on board. He's excited. He's willing to go full force. And another reason is that he was the Ferris principal before, for 8 years, I believe. So it only makes sense, and Mrs. Leon will be placed at one of my other elementary vacancies.
To expedite things, just in concept only, board members, what's your feeling? I would highly recommend that they bring a job description for an elementary principal
Assistant.
as soon as possible, that we approve it, that we have the funding, of course, because there's gonna be a savings of 1 full-time principal there, and that will be in concept only, that I think that we should move forward on that. And then the other thing is that, when you talk about administration and principals, you mentioned Sarah Marley, you have a pool of employees in the district that are fully certified or getting certified as administrators, right, as
Yes,
principals?
yes.
And
So,
I hope that that is the plan to
Mhm.
use those people, and that you continue that program,
yes.
right? But for the immediate, or for immediacy, we need to, in concept, let her move forward on that, board members. So unless I hear any objection on that, we're not voting, but I would bring that job description as soon as possible, all right? Okay, go ahead with
Okay.
anything else.
So-
Yeah, wait a minute, I wanna address something else. You mentioned, and it's the elephant in the room, we might as well talk about it. I personally would never entertain or recommend that we close Ferris School. Now, I know that seems contrary to what's happening everywhere. If any of you that follow state education or anything, you're gonna see that they're closing schools all over the state, especially elementary schools. And they're closing them with many more students than 126, I think you said, right? But not only because of historical value and, but there's a tradition out there with that school. And it's a community school, and it's been there forever. You know, you might ask, how can you reconcile that with all of the things you're doing and you're talking austerity? But there are many things beyond just the closing of that school that has to be considered by the district, especially by the board. So I just want to make that clear that I don't think any board members, but I don't think that that's even in the offing. So we want to make sure we get that off the table so everybody knows, all right?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
So just in summary, we discussed a lot today and a lot, you know, to consider as far as, you know, positions not being vacated. That's, as Mr. Vereen and I have discussed, that's not really a board, you know, a board vote or any like that. But in summary, we're here because due to a decline in enrollment, we don't need as many teaching positions. If we increase enrollment, we can always bring more teaching positions, and that's the way schools work. We may end up collapsing more classes at the elementary level once we have more concrete enrollment numbers in May. It is my goal to try to do as much as possible to continue with the lower class sizes in K3, if at all possible. But if it's too low, then I really have to consider collapsing, you know, some of those. We will first place our certified teachers who need to be positioned somewhere in the case of the middle school, 3 teachers in ELA, for example. We will first place those before putting anybody that's on an H1J1 emergency teacher certification, and I've already discussed that with our attorney. Insurance benefits is a huge expense to the M&O budget. Insurance rate increase is 9% because of the cap. For fiscal year 26-27, we will have to go out for bid. So while we're not discussing that yet, I want you to know that that is gonna come next year. And we foresee a huge increase to the insurance, maybe 25%, maybe 40, I don't know. What this will do, its impact of no district contribution to employees will be detrimental in terms of pay for our staff. And I'm considering every single staff member that regardless if they take insurance, regardless of 301, I'm considering every employee in the district. We may lose staff, which will be a huge impact to DUSD. The recommendation is to seriously consider the 301 site fund to pay for salaries or insurance costs as many other districts do. It's less impact to our employees who do take our insurance, yet our 301 staff will still get a very nice portion of 301 monies. My recommendation will prevent us from having to transfer $750,000 from the capital to the M&O budget and still provide insurance. Considerations for the 26-27 will be more drastic in terms of the insurance, because of if the hike is that huge, then maybe we propose a percentage, you know, such as option 3. But that's for the 26-27 school year. I've already told you contracts and wage notices for the immediacy of it will not have a salary increase right now because we cannot afford it. However, if in October we see a jump in numbers or additional monies come from the state, we can come back to the board and make a decision whether it's a one-time, whether it's an additional, you know, 1% that's sustainable, and we're willing to do that because I'm gonna do whatever I can for our employees. So as long as we don't put the district in a bad situation. And that concludes my presentation.
In summary, on that page, bullet number 3, we will first place our certified teachers who have to move, blah, blah, blah. I want to make a comment regarding that. Certified teachers are extremely valuable. This thing, it is very, very disgusting to me that we have so many people in classrooms, but of course, we're not the only ones affected by it. But what I'm getting at is, we discussed ESI at the last regular meeting, I think. And we talked about, and it's always been the attitude of the board that, because it was abused, that ESI generally doesn't apply to classified, that the board wasn't interested in looking at people. However, in remembering that there were some classified, some certified individuals that were going to retire, I would say that I would eagerly go after those people if they wanted to come back as teachers in the classroom, that we as a board wouldn't have any problem because of the circumstances hiring those individuals back as teachers, all right? The last thing that I want to say is, board members, number one, thanks for being here and understanding. We have some problems, and it's not unique, but we're not gonna let the district get in a situation where we're gonna be having emergency board meetings and having to call the county treasurer, and Mr. Soto knows better than anybody that the state of the state in Phoenix regarding funding and regarding the increases and all of the different factors that are involved in your consideration of the budget, or a lot of them are up in the air. Mrs. Samaniego, was a great presentation. It was very thorough, very informative. Thank you. And then we have a meeting, we'll schedule it, we'll get together and schedule it. Hopefully, board members will be here. Give everybody an opportunity to let this thing kind of gel in your mind and see what you want to come up with. I'm sure we'll be getting comments from employees and members of the community. I certainly didn't want to alarm anybody by making public that the district was under the high-risk category at the Auditor General's Office for Financial Management. But is Sonia here? I thought I saw her. Yeah, there was a couple of, and I've discussed with Mr. Soto, there's a couple of other areas that I alluded to regarding, that we're kind of drifting into those areas. And if we get there, then we may get another letter, not even withstanding the capital. It could be in another area, or it could be all of them, all right? So we just need to be very careful there, all right? So in summary, thank you very much. This was a study session. That's the reason we didn't allow any public comment, or the next meeting will be a study,
No.
it'll be a special meeting.
To approve
Where we
contracts.
can take action. But I want you to know that we're gonna move very slowly. We're not gonna move too fast. If it's piecemeal and it comes back to the board, one item at a time, that's the way we're gonna take it. But we're not gonna jump into anything. We're not gonna be rash as to, what was said here today, or react, negatively. We're gonna hopefully have an open mind and come back and we'll get all of this worked out. Thank all the administrators, all the directors, everybody that helped the administration put this presentation together. I'm glad there's a understanding. And as far as benefits are concerned, I think you people know that this board has done everything we can the last few years, and we'll continue to do it, but we have to address the situation we're in right now. So, having said all of that, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
I want to make some comments before we do that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to thank you, Mrs. Samaniego, for the presentation and doing all the background research, Mr. Soto. I do want to say that I want to keep all the employees in mind. We do the best we can for them. I know austerity measures need to be taken. We can ride this out, but I do not want to interrupt the quality education that the students are receiving. I think we offer an excellent education here in Douglas, and I want that to continue. With all of the ramifications that we have to go through, we are working as a team, and I think we can continue to do that. And I think that once this bump in the road is done, we're gonna come out real well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Moving along with that, do you have any closing comments, Ms. Hudson?
No, I don't.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Okay. Anything in closing? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Alcha?
Ms. Alchow. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, the reason I had a roll call is because somebody may wanted to talk longer, one of the board members, so I wanted to make sure that. Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.